G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new, sorry I just saw some crumbs on there. This is a journal flip of my Virtual Voyage 8 deco journal. I actually did this one very differently from all the other Virtual Voyage journals that I've worked on, and I'm going to show you through everything. This one's gonna be a really chatty one. I will film a music only one in case you don't want to listen to all this chat, because there's going to be a lot of chat. So stick around if you're into that. This is Virtual Voyage 8, like I said, which is one of our workshops that we do live components to. There's a lot of different types of activities. Virtual Voyage is kind of a hard thing to explain, so maybe if I remember, I'll try and put the blog post, What is Virtual Voyage, in the description box below. You can see it on my website, and there's a whole blog post that kind of outlines the whole workshop and how we go about it. This is number 8, and this is actually an extension to the second one we did, which was Burtonville, our original Burtonville cruise. We did everything that was kind of inspired by Tim Burton and his work. And so this was Burtonville 2. This was an extension to that course because I felt like there was so much we didn't get covered in those first 2 weeks. And that was back in 2020. So 3 years later, we're doing part 2. And I mean, we've done it. It's finished. It's fully finished. We did it back in August and it is October now. I have finally put the finishing touches on this journal, and I'm ready to share it with you in all of its glory. So like I said, this is a deco journal. I've been doing these pre-decorated US letter sizes, 8.5 by 11 inches, I think, journals that I do through Amazon. And so they're all pre-decorated. You can see some of the page designs here in these 1-inch strips. This is what all the pages look like before they get stuff added to them. And in this workshop, I've specifically set out to take all of the loose paper pads I had and work on those so that all of my work became ephemera for this journal. So everything has been stuck in. I didn't really work in the journal itself. It's more like I worked on loose sheets of paper, I had all my printouts and everything, and then it got stuck in here. So this journal does represent all of the course work, but most of it was done outside of the journal and added in, kind of like one of my travel journals, Memory to Memento. All of that was kind of oh, no, actually, I worked inside that one. Forget that. Scrap that. I've got so many journals at this point. I don't really know what to relate these to, but in essence, I did want to use up a lot of loose paper pads. Being with Art Snacks for so many years, I've got a lot of paper pads and I just don't get to use them often because I work straight into journals. So I felt like that was a really good way to go about it. And also I got to experiment with a lot of different types of paper, a lot of different surfaces, and just in general use up a lot of my great paper stash. So here it all is. It's going to be all over the place because I teach the workshop and then I do the workshop with everybody. So there's lots of things that repeat, like you can see here. This is already twice on one page. Hopefully I'll remember everything as it happens, but I'm just going to show you through the journal. So if I miss a few things, don't worry about it. It's not too important. Just want to show you it all. Inspired by Tim Burton, so everything in here has that ooky kooky spooky feel. And this was our itinerary. We did 2 weeks, starting August 2nd, finishing August 16th. And we had all of these different activities to complete. I did a font for one of the downloads. I called it the Lure font. It was inspired by his typeface that he drew for big fish. And I didn't even realize until I was actually trying to break it all down that they were fishing lures, like the little fish that you put in to catch other fish. It's kind of weird. But anyway, I did that and I made a whole font as a download. So I ended up using that font. You can see it here. This is the original drawing for the font. This is the actual font used on the computer as one of the downloads. I've done that before. I've done a font. I think I did it for Burtonville, the original one. Yeah, that was one of them there. And we did a monster font called Fonsters. Just one of those random extra downloads that I just feel like, you know, I would like to vary up all the content in Virtual Voyages. I like it to be a whole mix and match of just creative stuff inspired by the subject matter. So fonts are just one of those like random little things that you just don't really think about, but there's such great value to them if you use computers. So anyway, that was that. This was kind of like a visual, like setting our intention for the course, because I wanted this course to be about seeing it the way Tim Burton sees it and doing it the way he does it, and it being art and creativity, because he sees things from a very personal perspective. It's very sentimental at times as well, and it's very much pulling from his own childhood. And the way that he does it is also very childlike in its approach. Like there's not a lot of care and concern for getting things proportionally correct. There's not a lot of fussing about. You can see there's a lot of great expressionistic kind of approach to his work and his art. So I really love that, and that's what I wanted to kind of set up for us again as kind of like a goal for this workshop. So we kind of did these little portraits to do that. Just a little feature of the course, I did these towel animals because it's cruise ship themed, so they're all like little Tim Burton towel animals, which I thought were funny. And these little characters you see were a part of a Pictionary game we played. I just finished them. Steve drew all of those. We love to play games in our live theme nights. This is one of our first lessons, Sally O'Seams. She is based on an illustration in his... I have the big coffee table book, The Art of Tim Burton. It's a fantastic book to look through and be inspired by. But one of the Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, one of those illustrations has her kind of like strewn about, kind of all pieces missing. So I used that as inspiration, and it kind of gave her a little bit of a Delia Dietz twist on it. Some of those earlier illustrations had this interesting question mark here. So it's a bit of a mashup of those. We used my favorite Mitsubishi red blue pencil for that. Also did that kind of black backgrounding with all the loose edges on it. I really like that effect. And I enjoy how it turned out there. The lesson was in 3 parts. For our video tutorials, we usually do like a 3-part lesson. Sometimes the lessons are all different from each other depending on how difficult it is, but if there's something that I really want to stress as a part of like the learning, the education of it, we'll really break it down. So this had a lot to do with how to stripe these different kind of forms, how to put lines on different forms. So you can see there's a lot of that information there, and then we did it on the body, and then that helped us when we went to go and put all of this detailing and patterning on, which was really helpful because they're all kind of stitching lines, and it's just good to know how to accent those curves of the body when you're drawing. So kind of broke that down as a part of the lesson to learn. We got some more towel animals and more of Steve's Pictionary drawings. This was a printout, just one of those random poolside activities, which is a printable activity that we do. This one was really simple. It was just printed out, cut out the sandworm, and it was called Bury the Sandworm or Bury the Sand Monster. I forgot what I said. You essentially just cut it up in different parts and draw the hole around it, and you're supposed to bury it so that it goes all through your book. So I think it goes in here, and I think it'll pop back out somewhere else. There it is, pops back out again here. It just goes into the little parts of the journal. I just liked it. I liked the fact that we would all have a sandworm, kind of a sand monster burying through our journals. I think it's a sandworm. I'm almost positive it's a sandworm. All of these little stickers you see were parts of downloads. I think that's one of like the most obvious downloads you would get from kind of an art journaling workshop is a collage sheet, but I tried to keep them all very black and white just because I knew my deco journal was going to be very black and white. So it's not that I themed this journal to all be black and white. Obviously there's some color in it, but I really tried to stay away from adding too much color. It was like reds, blues, blacks, whites, grays. I mean, there's other things that pop in here and there, but for the most part, that's just kind of the journal, and I wanted to keep it that way because I felt like it would just kind of pull it all together, and I feel like that worked. But yeah, a lot of this, I mean, that's washi tape, but a lot of these extra little bits and pieces were just part of collage sheet downloads that I had a silhouette file for, so mine all just became stickers, and it was a really great way to fill up all the extra bits at the end. Like even this is a sticker up here, and I don't know, I just have a lot of fun sometimes just playing stickers. I know I've said that before. Somebody just could be really therapeutic, just kind of laying stickers down everywhere. You always got like a little spot to put something. This was another lesson called Till Death Do Us Part. And I really like in the Burtonville workshops, for some reason, I get really sentimental and I want to do family portraits and pet portraits and partner portraits and like really just, you know, kind of get really self-involved with it. I don't know why that happens, but it was very specific for this one as well. This was, this is a kind of like a portrait of Steve and I, but I found this piece of work in his book that I just felt like was so, I don't know, I like so unintentionally very like spooky but romantic, and it was just this idea that like, you know, in the afterlife you're still kind of walking together. So it was supposed to be, you know, you and your partner or you and your best friend or you and your children or whatever, but just drawing from the back. I mean, I'm always kind of teaching drawing faces and drawing feminine forms and figures from the front, but I rarely ever show the back, and so I felt like this would be a great way to focus on you know, just completely flipping the perspective and also getting some more of that sentimentality in there. So we still have that black background thing. It was kind of interesting to characterize things without being able to put any face on them. So I had to take parts of myself that I thought were very me. So, I mean, my favorite color is red. I love kind of matching problematic patterns. I always wear this beige cap. Like all of my caps are for some reason just beige colored. Steve's is a little bit off. I mean, I don't think it technically looks exactly like Steve, but I just felt like I would know it was Steve. Anyway, it was a whole thing. There's a bunch of other illustrations throughout here. You'll see that it wasn't, you didn't even have to do you and your partner or whatever. You could do Catwoman and Batman or whatever you felt like drawing up. But I just thought that was a cute lesson. And this was another one of our cruise activities, the Burton Bebes. I love these little babies. And I just got a new baby in our family. Sophia, little Shoshi. So I think I just had babies on the brain, and I love just the idea of mixing all of the things that are really, really spooky and quirky with something really, really cute. Just that juxtaposition works really nicely, I think. And this was Apple the Vampire. He was a bonus lesson that I did. I was not going to do that originally, but couldn't help myself because I was having so much fun with him. But the actual one we did, where is he? You'll see it at some point, but there's a little one of him here, a couple of sketches. We did Anku, which is our little mascot. He's an anchor. We brought him out in Virtual Voyage. Here he is here. You can see him. 6, the Tokyo A Go-Go cruise. Is he in here too? He might be on here. I think I've used up all the ones that he's on. Oh no, maybe he's in here. This was from our bento box. Oh no, that's Steve and I. Anyway, well, he's here. You can see him on there. He is a little mascot that I created because we did one of those mascot lessons in Virtual Voyage 6, and I wanted to create one for the course that was just a very Japanese thing to have a mascot for everything. But then I kept it around. I didn't bring him back for Virtual Voyage 7, but I thought I did want to keep it going. So I made a version of him for Virtual Voyage 8. You can see it on the itinerary here. He's a bit more of a spooky version there. So I'd hope to kind of bring that back. I've been very inconsistent with it. But when I did the babies, I thought, well, he'd be a great character to do because it's kind of like an original type concept, and we could play with all of that. So we did him, but Apple was the extra lesson. This was just a sketch to help me with my lesson. Sorry, I've got, if you notice on my hand, I was swatching out a metallic eyeshadow. So that's what's glistening on my hand. This was some of the references for Till Death Do Us Part. You can see the back of hairstyles, the body blocks that we kind of use to accentuate the figures, and the different types of characterization you could do. Well, those were just the original sketches. This, I think it's fun sometimes. You can see these are all the sketches, but this is what the actual worksheet looks like. I usually do them a lot bigger, and I spend a lot of time trying to format everything because I hate waste on paper, and I don't like to have 2 sheets of something if I can just have one. So I spend a lot of time formatting, but that is something that no one ever really sees because I just spend my own time doing it for hours and hours at my desk. Here's a little breakdown of some skulls we did for a family portrait-ish of skulls. And I thought this was interesting because I really love this type of skull here, but I wanted to show how it breaks down from something really regular that you see into something a lot more stylized, and little steps that it takes to kind of become that. So I kind of broke that down a little bit and thought that was interesting. This is a little envelope of some ephemera. This was, I had to test the sizing of one of our trick or treat lessons. We did this, I'll quickly show you here. Pop-up. I love a good pop-up. We did this trick or treat lesson, but all of these had to be very specific sizes so that when I shut the book, it wouldn't go over and it would still all fit in there. So it was a lot of trial and error, but I kept some of the original pieces just to remember. Ended up doing it all on the iPad anyway, I think. Or I think I did on the iPad. And then I did a hand-drawn version as well. That's what I did. But there's one of the original sketches. They were all Nightmare Before Christmas themed. I had Panda Express. I usually get very unhealthy when I do workshops. It's totally my own fault. If I go shopping, I'm completely fine. But if there's nothing in the fridge by the time I start a workshop, it's very much takeout express. So I just put that in there to remind myself to be a bit better about that. I have to say, this workshop was probably one of the better ones as far as schedule went and as far as like health went. I was very on top of it. Other ones have been completely chaotic, but this one I felt pretty good about. We did a lesson. Why didn't we do a lesson? This was a C day, which is more just entertaining content for your eyes. We'll call it that. Very much in air quotes. I think it's entertaining. I don't know how many people think it's entertaining. But it's also supposed to stimulate that creativity. So some people do try to do the stuff from C days as well. But it's not like a lesson. I don't tell people to go and do it. It's more just something that you can look at. And I space everything out in the workshops so that you've got a lot of content to do and then a lot of content to watch while you're doing the doing. And then it picks back up again. So usually the course will go like this as far as effort is concerned. And hopefully it all spaces out. But we all take the course at different paces. So, I can never really know. But this was, I wanted to... What did I call it? It was something stupid, like illustrated by Jim Birkin, which was also one of these. We added a new little section to Virtual Voyage where at the end of the day I would do a quick question and it was a prompt for journaling. And one of them, it was like, what would your mashup name be with Tim Burton? So mine was Jim Birkin, and everyone came up with mashup names that were so horrendously cringe, and I loved every second of it. But yeah, I mean, I still can't say it without dying a little bit. In any case, I wanted to pretend like I was Tim Burton and then illustrate my favorite children's books that, I remember as a kid. I just think a lot of what Tim Burton does is just so pulled from his childhood. I thought this would be a great kind of activity to do. So there's a bunch in here. One of them is not a kid's book that I remember from childhood, but I just came across it online and I thought I have to do it. It's this one. So when I get to that, that's what I'm talking about. But the first one was Peter Rabbit. Actually, I don't think it was the first. No, it might have been the first one I did. I can't remember the order, but Peter Rabbit, that was just, classic for me growing up. My gran would always sing little Peter Rabbit songs, little lullabies, and we just had all those little books, and I just remember that really fondly. So I did Peter Rabbit, as Tim Burton might have done it. Uh-oh. Oh, sorry about that. Surprise allergy attack. I'm back now. I'm back. I'm better than ever. So I did Peter Rabbit. Love that. This is a bit of one of those quick questions. This was my favorite Tim Burton character and what it says about me. So I just wrote about that. Some examples from lessons. We also did this like creative frenzy thing where I think it was one of the questions, what movies would you like to see directed by Tim Burton, like a version of? And so then I went and illustrated a whole bunch of them. There's a list in here as well, but this was Legally Blonde. And we came up with some funny names that was like the antagonist type name for that character. So this is, instead of Elle Woods, it's Elle Wouldn't. And then we have another one, which is Eliza Doolittle, but it's Eliza Don't Little. I thought it was just so clever. It was such a funny little offshoot of a creative frenzy. And I always say to lean into your creative frenzies because why not? Well, I actually say it because sometimes they're fleeting and they go away and you'll never have the thought come back again. But the rest of the course content stays up there, so you can always revisit it. So you just should always go into that. Here they are. If I could have any Tim Burton concept art. Oh, it's concept art. Great, even better. I think I did that to keep it a bit more open, but essentially I meant, movies. But concept art, there's a whole bunch. Barbie, Parent Trap, Wizard of Oz, Muppets Treasure Island. Some really random ones here. I tried to get as many as I could the day that I took the notes, but I know there's a ton more in the course. And people tried a lot of different versions of things, which was really great. Here's some just lesson stuff. That was from Steve's Pictionary, another towel animal, again, another one of these. I did the lesson, broke down into 2 parts where we did the whole illustration, and then we did it again, because I always like to show people that, your first attempt at something isn't always the best. Sometimes you can have a great result, but sometimes just doing something one more time and actually intentionally pushing yourself to do it even wilder yields just such a more impressive result. So I think this was the first one we did where I kind of explained it all, and then this was the second one I did. So you can see the proportions are much more pushed than this, and it becomes a whole lot more exaggerated and stylized. This is very stylized, but this is very confidently stylized. Do you know what I mean? Like here you could say I maybe went halfway with a few things. Here I just went all the way crazy. So I just like to show that difference. It's nice to get a visual on that stuff and to actually get it in real time, because you never really know how much some of this stuff should take. Like you see it online, you see people doing a video that goes for 10 minutes and could be 7 hours worth of work all clipped up. Or you see a few photos side by side on Instagram, you have no idea, but that could have been, 20 minutes. And so I always like to try and do whatever I can do real time to show that this is what's achievable, this is what's manageable, and some of the tricks that you can do to make that happen, because not everyone has a lot of time. Like I do this as my job and I don't even have the most time in the world to do it. So, just kind of a mindful thing that I keep in the back of my head. These are my recap notes just to make sure that I'm teaching everything that I want to be teaching. I got photos in here that my mum sent me. My mum and my nephew, Lige, will actually do some of the live streams with me, and then she sends me all the pictures of what they've come up with. It's just so fun. I've never in my wildest dreams would I imagine my mum would ever even care to sit in on a little lesson like that. But she fully gets involved, and it's honestly one of my favorite parts. Don't tell her, but it's one of my favorite parts of virtual voyages when I see them pop up on the screen and they send me all of these. And then usually as soon as I'm finished, she'll call me, and then Elijah will show me all of his drawings, and he's very, very proud of them. And I wish I could just bottle up that feeling forever, because I know he's almost at that age where he'll probably be too cool to do it. And I'll be devastated forever, but it's okay. I'll enjoy it while I have it. Here are more of the font drawings. I actually drew them all in pencil, and then I redrew them in pencil because I didn't like the way that they looked originally, and the quality of the line wasn't picking up for the font. And then when I went and did the font, I had so much to clean up. This one took a long, long time. So I hope someone out there has used the font at least once. You know what? I used it. It was fine. It was worth it for me. Here are the portraits we did. We had 2 theme night lives that we got dressed up for. One was Fright Night, which was Batman Returns. We were the Red Triangle Circus Gang. So that's why we're dressed as those clowns. And then the other one was Nevermore Night, which was Wednesday Addams themed. There's more portraits I'll show you later, and we'll kind of talk about those costumes. Here's more of the Creative Frenzy stuff, more of Steve's Pictionary, more towels. That's mostly a lot of what this extra ephemera is, all of those. And there's that baby Anku that we did with all of the cruise activities PDF references. Sometimes I'll put things... in the past, I used to do things very step by step, but a lot of the time now, I've just been putting a lot of my sketchbook kind of like sketches in there, or working sketches stuff in there, because it's just easier for me to reference what I've actually done rather than for me to... And sometimes I feel like if it's a step by step, I'm just pointing at the step and then showing you the step and then pointing at the step and showing the step. So I don't know, it just doesn't feel as nice of a flow to me. I don't even really think I did that often. I know for the photo tutorials in Virtual Voyage, those are all step by step. Like when we do port treasures and you have to make something, I'll do that step by step, because that I think is important to be walked through. But for this stuff now, it's usually just become a whole pages of working sketches, and I can reference everything a lot easier and just make little notes. I also think it's just helpful for people to make their own notes, because I usually say things that are important to me, but some people already know that information. They already carry that in their, their tool belt. And then other people, pick up on something that I don't think is that important to stress, but they want to remember it. So they'll just make a note like, the hair is always twisty, or something like that. Something that makes them feel like they've, got the information down. Because ultimately, even though these journals are full of finished work, they also become references for me. Like, there's a lot of information in here that I don't commit to memory, but when I study it and when I reproduce it or I teach it, I think, okay, that's great information for me to have, but I just can't remember all of it. So I will pull out my journal and reference this again if I ever wanted to do this again. Like, for this course, I was pulling out all of my Virtual Voyage 2 journals and referencing that Tim Burton work, because as much as I carry a lot of that in my brain, there's just so much, like there's just not enough space. So the rest of it I know lives in those journals, and I just pull those out and reference them whenever I want. So these become, not just like a finished journal to, put on your shelf and look at finished work. I always feel like these are very much working kind of, journals with information in there that should be referenced a lot. They're kind of like encyclopedias. Isn't that what I used to call them? Imagination encyclopedias? Something like that. Anyway. Here's another one of those illustrated by Jim Birkin pieces. This one was from, I think I just saw Santa Claus, and I cannot find this book anywhere. I think it's an Australian book. It's a Christmas book where you open it and there's this door that you have to flip open. It's like a flip tab, and when the door is closed, it looks like Santa Claus is there, but then when you open it, you see this picture that's not Santa Claus at all. It's like a red herring, but then there is a Santa Claus somewhere else hidden on the page. I always thought it was very, very creepy. So one of the first books that I thought, I have to draw this in Tim Burton style, is this book, because I thought, Like there was something about it that I loved, but there was also something about the Santa Claus that creeped me out a little bit. And so I chose one of the final pages where Santa's in the window going shh, and I just think it is so creepy. Like there, I'm so impressed with how it turned out, especially for it being a gouache piece. Like I'm not the most confident with gouache, but I think it just turned out so well that it actually creeps me out a little bit, which was the point. It was supposed to be ooky kooky spooky, right? So very interesting. The book that I don't own it, it's my family's, but I do inherit everything Christmas when the family passes away, so it will be mine one day. It's technically, I think, my brother's and mine, but this book is at home. And I did consider bringing it back with me because it's just such a part of my childhood Christmas experience, but also I like the fact that it's at home because, like, I don't want to take away my home Christmas experience if ever I go back for Christmas. Weird Christmas rant, but it is coming up to Christmas time, so I'm fully in it. This is Dolly Levi. Love it. Hello, Dolly. More of the font. If I could spell out a name, and it's only one alphabet that I drew, so I had to be very careful with which letters I could use twice. But if I could spell something out, I would use it in my book. So I think that's how I ended up with Burton 23 and James, because those were the only letters that didn't need to repeat. I had a whole bunch of other words that were options. Here are the portraits. Steve actually started doing a lot of his studio lighting photography when we started Virtual Voyage 1, and I said this would be a great opportunity for you to practice, thinking I would get some great photos out of it, but he had not really done portrait lighting or studio lighting or anything like that, so I actually bought him a course, and this was back in 2020, and we were doing it in our living room, like just putting up random backdrops, and he was testing it all out. And cut to now, he's got his own photo studio. He's got, I think, about 3 editorials up for publication. Like, it is so fun to me to see these now and realize that, like, the same, I'm having a proud husband moment. Sorry if I'm rambling on, but for me, it all started here. It all started with Virtual Voyage when we were doing the Alice in Wonderland, and, you know, we did the Falling Alice and the Mad Hatter, and he just took those photos, and I was like, wow, you did such a good job. And, you know, when I look back at them now, obviously there's a lot that I think he's learned since then. I mean, obviously, but it's just fun now. I mean, just to see that we're still doing those portraits, but to know where we're at now. I mean, I just could never have guessed that that's where we would end up. So, I don't know. The portraits have such more of a significant, I guess, feeling about them now, just because I know personally how much Steve has grown within his creativity as a photographer. And, you know, these aren't like the best portraits of us in the world. Obviously, we're clowns in these 60s. These are literal 1960s clown costumes that I got off eBay that I first lost the bid for, and then I had to go back and buy them again. Not again, but like I actually had to up my bid because I you know when you can only bid 5 times? Well, I used all 5 and the guy still didn't take it. So then I had to go back and bid like $1 more, and he took it. And I was like, all right. He drove a very hard bargain for these. I feel creeped out by them. Like, I actually don't want to hold on to them, so I'm gonna have to find someone to give them to because they're not my favorite things ever. I feel like something sinister happened in them. I don't know, it's just my brain going to crazy places. But we did the Red Triangle Circus Gang from Batman. This was Elijah's drawing. I put the stripes on there. Little collab between Elijah and I. This is his circus drawing. This, in the actual intro, every time, to varying degrees of success, we do a little intro skit. And for this one, I cut up a Batman during it. This was actually the Batman that I cut up. So sometimes I try to save those props just because it's a part of the story. But yeah, I get very sentimental about the portraits now. And I really enjoyed how these came out. This is a lot of the Creative Frenzy work. Barbie, Dorothy, Farrah Fawcett and Charlie's Angels, Satine from Moulin Rouge, and then there's just more of the towel animals. This I actually did on YouTube last week, a little tutorial for you, so if you want to go and learn how to draw this, you can do that. It was based off of this. We had a quick question that, I think it was a ride, if you could overlay Tim Burton on a ride, because at Disneyland they have the Haunted Mansion, where at Christmas time it becomes the Haunted Mansion Holiday, which is Nightmare Before Christmas themed. So I thought if you could overlay Tim Burton on any other ride, what would you do? And Tim Burton's directed a version of Dumbo, so you could actually do Dumbo. That would be a real thing that he's done before. But I just wanted to know what people would would do. And I really liked the idea of, because he did Margaret Keane's Big Eyes, that movie, which I love, with Amy Adams. I thought It's a Small World, but with the big eye waif dolls. And so this was the one that I did from It's a Small World, the little toy soldier. And then I did one of these, which is a 1960s mermaid, which I think have now been replaced by The Little Mermaid and her friends. I don't think they have these as originals in any of the Small Worlds anymore. I'm not quite sure. But I found a photo of it on Google. I loved it. I love the color palette and gave it a go. Did a Margaret Keane ex Mary Blair mermaid. I said Mary Blair because she's the one that designed the dolls originally, but it's inspired by the fact that Tim Burton did the movie. It's a very deep cut. Don't worry about it. Don't try and make sense of it. It's a creative frenzy, so we just do whatever we do. This was keeping score of our winners for the game night. More journaling about the different quick questions. This tape does not want to stick down, which is fine. I didn't expect it to. Some different versions of Catwoman. Catwomen. There's Apple the Vampire and the baby lesson. Lots of just little stickers and bits and pieces. Sometimes I get really bored and just doodle in some of the back blank spaces. I gave Elijah one of these journals with nothing in it, obviously like a fresh, clean one, and he actually thought it was a coloring book. So I have footage in my Australia vlog that I'm still working on of him coloring in like every individual white space, and he changes color every single time, and he used every single art supply I took with me to Australia, and yeah, he absolutely loved it. He thought it was just such a bizarre coloring book, but never in my wildest dreams did I actually think someone would do that. So it was just interesting to see. I just love watching children play in journals. It's endlessly inspiring. Here's some more Till Death Do Us Part examples. Some journaling. Oh, more of that sandworm is coming through. That was just ephemera. This is another one of the quick questions. If you had to make a travel kit for Tim Burton, what would you put in there? Which I think is interesting because I actually started this new thing where I had this pot. This was an old succulent pot that Steve didn't want. And throughout the course, whatever I was using, repeatedly, I'd put into this. And so I actually ended up with what I would consider a Tim Burton travel. This is not all of them. And it's kind of changed since the course is over. But I ended up with what I would assume would be a great, Tim Burton travel kit, and just swatched it all out and put it down there. It'd be a great little kit to put together if I ever wanted to give someone a Tim Burton travel kit. How many times can I say that without just moving on? Move on! This was another one of our lessons from Fright Night, and there is a picture. This is a Beetlejuice concept art that Tim Burton did, but again, we kind of self-inserted, and then underneath, all of these little hanging things are supposed to represent things that we're really petrified of, things that frighten us. So for me, space, hate space. Financial insecurity, love to hate that. My injury, I get so scared of being injured again the way that I was after my accident. Death, I have existential crisis about death near daily. And spiders, hate spiders, always hated spiders. And then my mum sent hers through as well. And I just find it so funny because one of her biggest fears in life is haunted houses. And now I work at Not Scary Farm. Every time I go in there, I just imagine my mum having the biggest panic in the world. I don't like them either. I haven't been in any of the mazes because it's way too much for me right now. But I am getting a little bit more desensitized to all of the scare actors, like the clowns and the pig people. I really still can't get behind. Like, they freak me out too much. Like, there are a few different types of scare actors with different prosthetics. Like, the other day I saw a werewolf with like things hanging out of its mouth, and that just was way too much for me as well. Just too gory. Like, ugh. Anyway, they do a very good job. Too good of a job, I would say. They could tone down the reality of it a little bit. But yeah, so that was just one of those things. I don't know. It's all about, journaling is all about getting yourself in there. I love so many of the lessons in Virtual Voyage, like, really get you to put yourself in there because so many people share. So it's a really interesting kind of community of sharing where we're not just kind of showing like, oh, I'm doing this today or I'm doing this today. You're actually sharing like, these are the things I'm really afraid of, or this was one of my favorite childhood memories, or, we're sharing things that are kind of very revealing about each other. Obviously, I don't encourage everyone to share things they're not happy to share, but a lot of people do get really into it and share a lot of interesting stuff. And I think especially adding those just a quick question type prompts at the end really revealed an extra layer of, just how incredibly unique and creative every individual in our community is. And so it's really opened my eyes as well, because I mean, as much as you guys get to listen to me talk and share my stories and you build this idea of who I am, I actually do build an idea of people that I come across, a lot of times, like people that I've taught in many different workshops or people that I see on Instagram, near daily. I have an idea about you guys as well. And then when you answer a question and I see something like, oh, this is the concept art I'd like to see Tim Burton do, I would think, really? Like, oh, you're a spooky girl. Like you like horror movies. I never would have picked you for that. So it's interesting. I think you get to, I mean, art can be very revealing, but when you specifically intend to reveal more parts of yourself, I just love that. I think it's so much fun. And I think that's so much of what my journaling is about. Obviously I love to do art and to be creative, but I think a lot of it I do want to be able to just express all of those parts of myself and have it in here and have it down there and share that. It just feels good to share it. This is another one of those illustrated by Jim Birkin. This was Madeline. She's mad. Aline. More of mum stuff. We were doing a white Catwoman suit just to show how to shade, I think. I don't know why we did that, actually. Maybe it was just a suggestion. But I know we did white hair, and that was something that got me tripped up a little bit. Because when you're scribbling hair, like, we were relying on the scribbles to show a lot. I think I did a version of it over here. Yeah, there it was. I think I just ended up saying just do grey shading, because this was what I thought the white hair should look like, but it actually just looks like black hair. So anyway, sometimes we figure stuff out as we go. We learn together. You know what I'm now thinking? I actually did a video on YouTube where I made this deco journal, where you see me making all of the stuff that became this journal. So if you're curious to see what this actually looks like, there's a whole video on it. And to see me making all of this stuff, like I cut all this stuff up, I scanned everything, I laid it all together into this format, like I kind of built it from scratch on YouTube. So go check that out if you want. This was another one of those creative frenzies. This one was Glinda, if Tim Burton had done the concept art for Glinda the Good Witch of the North. And this is the original sandworm. It was much bigger, so I've just buried it into this page and come out of this page. Mini monsters. Right at the end of this, you'll see this page here. These little mini monsters were just a tiny part of a lesson that we did that became a much larger project, so we'll have a look at that later. There was a Port Treasures download of every single Wednesday Addams drawing I could find that I had done in any journal or any scanned image that I had, and there was literally, I think, over 70 different Wednesday Addamses. I didn't manage to get all of them in here. It was never something I figured I could do because there were just so many. But yeah, so this is one from my Christmas Trader Joe's Jumbo Journal, and I gave those as a part of a Port Treasures. I think there was like 6 or 7 pages of downloads for those. Maybe a minis? I don't know if there was a minis one. I don't think there was. But there's so many. So any Wednesday Addams lovers who wants to get in on that, that's all there. This is the original sketch for that original lesson, where we see it as Tim sees it and do it as he does it. I put a Tim Corbell in there. There were no Tim Corbells in this virtual voyage, unfortunately, but she is a classic from the first. Ugly Little Tinkerbell. This is from The Witches, and every time I think of that movie, I just think of when she says, "We are witches." So I had to quote it. Roald Dahl, no, it's actually not Roald Dahl. I mean, he wrote the book, but Sir Quentin Blake. When I did Virtual Voyage 4, we did a deep dive into 4 different artists for that workshop, and Sir Quentin Blake, I should say, was one of them. He illustrates these Roald Dahl books, and I noticed such a similarity between the way that he works and the style with a lot of what Tim Burton does. So this was so easy to transcribe because it was almost exactly the same. There were a few changes I made, and I thought it was just so interesting to note, like, the massive crossover that 2 very successful artists can have, but still be completely in their own lane. Because I know there's a lot of, people get hung up a lot on what looks similar to someone else, or I don't want it to look like I'm copying, or, her work looks like my work, and what are we supposed to do about that? I mean, honestly, nothing. There's still going to be something unique about yours and something unique about theirs, and sometimes they do just cross over in many ways. There's many points of intersectionality with a lot of different artists. So this one was a really great example of that, because it looks almost like Sir Quentin Blake could have done it if he was just on a spooky, moody day. But yeah, anyway, I love that. More Wednesday Addamses. here. These were all from that printout. We did, on our Live on the Lido deck, we did a Margaret Keane Big-Eyed Waif inspired Wednesday Addams here. This kind of helped with some of the perspective stuff, and I really liked this whole lesson. Here's my Trick or Tree with all of the hand-drawn elements from The Nightmare Before Christmas. This duck is so interesting because this duck is from Batman Returns. You know, when I look at Tim Burton's, like the art of Tim Burton, the big coffee table book, there's so many motifs that repeat themselves, and I eventually learned that the red and white stripes, I think, came from a circus tent, because he uses red and white and he uses stripes everywhere all the time. And even though I don't think every time he uses it, he's thinking, oh, I'm doing my circus tent stripes. I mean, maybe, I don't know. But I just realized, like, oh, he loves these clown things, and he loves these targets, like, you know, the target red and white stripes, or the concentric circles, and the red and white stripes of a circus roof. So all the motifs being so repetitive is interesting, because you'll see in the different movies the way that the art direction puts them in there. And something like Big Eyes doesn't have a lot of that. Like, it's actually a very different kind of movie for Tim Burton. But then when you look at something like Dumbo or The Nightmare Before Christmas or Batman Returns, you can see a lot of it put in there. Like, it's very much that art direction. And I think one of the quick questions we had at the end of one of the days was, you know, which films, or do you think the art direction translates well? And I just think that there are varying degrees of it. I think some movies look like it's a very light touch, and then some it's just very heavy-handed, like this is all Tim Burton's aesthetic and this is what we're going with. And I tend to prefer those types of movies, but I still really loved Big Eyes, so I don't know, maybe I don't. Maybe I like all of it. This was our Nevermore Night portraits. Very thankful that the franchise was popular enough for Amazon to stock one of these coats, because I did not know how I was going to pull that off. We just decided to be Nevermore students. I think I'm a wolf. No, I think Steve's a wolf. What was I supposed to be? A siren. I think I have a sea necklace. I don't know. We didn't commit that much, but we just got it dressed in our school best, and that was really fun. Probably one of our more simple costumes, but still effective. I think Steve did a great job on the photography. We were going to do them more like school portrait style, but I think I wanted something a bit more dramatic. Steve loves dramatic as well. Here is more of the Wednesdays from the ephemera. And this was Eliza Doolittle from our Creative Frenzy. This wasn't a part of the course, but it was just another Wednesday, and I just loved it. I sometimes get in this mood. I think I wrote it down here. Yeah, getting back into my spend a lot of time on one piece era. Sometimes I do. I will just get in the mood to draw one thing for hours and hours and hours and hours. And I don't think I spent tons of time on this, but I think I maybe spent an hour and a half just drawing it. And it was very slow and very particular about my little strokes. And sometimes that is my relaxation. My mum sometimes asks, like, why do you do all that? Like, why are you bored? Like, do you get bored doing it? And I think, no, like, this is what other people do. Read a book, or, you know, read a magazine or watch a movie or something. Like, I can just draw, and that's a pleasurable pastime for me. So I don't know. It plays on my mind sometimes, because sometimes you do just wonder, like, really, did I just spend 2 hours just sitting there playing with stickers? Yes, you did. Yes, it's fine. We all get there. Our brain just sometimes doesn't want us to believe that it's fine. Here's another one of those pieces that we did. I think this was one of our last lessons, where the whole thing was kind of mapped out, and it had a few different Tim Burton motifs, like this spiral hill from Nightmare Before Christmas. I put a skull up there. Anyway, the whole thing was supposed to be like you have to put yourself onto it. So all of the different details would change depending on what you thought you should put there. And so this like says season up here. My favorite season is summer, so I put like a summer sunburst. But some people put winter, so they had a snowflake kind of design out on the side. Other people had autumn, so I had like an autumn leaf design. The hill was supposed to have a pattern on it from your favorite movie, and I couldn't really think of what I should do for Wizard of Oz, so I just put a brick. It's supposed to be a yellow brick road, but I didn't want to use yellow. I only wanted to use my favorite color, because one of the other prompts was that you could only color this. This was this little guy here. but you had to color in with your favorite color. So mine's red, so hey, he has red accents. It's just a whole lot of like choose your own adventure type of a piece, where the piece all looks very similar. If you put everyone side by side, they're essentially the same piece, but when you actually look at it, you see all the different details have changed according to that person. And I think I like it because it's coded. It's, you know, it's very secretive in why things are the way they are, and it looks like a mishmash of like really, you know, random motifs. But if you have maybe the key or the legend, whatever you would call it, you can kind of unlock all of the different things that are going on. So even down to across the face, the stitching, this is the Roman numeral for the year you were born. So this is the Roman numeral for 1990 for me. I think I even, yeah, if you're right-handed or left-handed, you would pattern one side. So this, I'm right-handed, so I patterned his right side. I probably should have done this side. It would have been more easy to understand. But anyway, his right side is patterned, so you can see the stripes, the different patterns over here, and the left side is completely blank. So that's to signify that I'm right-handed. This was your favorite toy. I had my mermaid jewel hair Teresa Barbie, of course. Favorite drink, Nippy's chocolate milk. Also, what you would draw as a child, and I did it with my left hand. I drew fairies and mermaids. Cat. The ball was supposed to represent a sport that you might have played or something like that. I played soccer, so I did a soccer ball of sorts. Anyway, lots of just meaning in it. You look at it and it's just a cute little illustration, but there's a lot of personal sentiment to it. I just love that. Love it, love it, love it. And sometimes, I mean, I'm the teacher, so I have to figure it out. But I figured, like, sometimes when I'm taking a course or I'm like in a workshop where someone's teaching me, I actually love when I'm led through things like this because I love all that sentiment. I love all that personal stuff. But sometimes I'm not thinking about all of it. Like it takes a bit of work to kind of pull it all out and extract it all. And sometimes I like it when the teacher just kind of like feeds it to you a little bit. And when the teacher's like, here, pick out your favorite color and pick out your favorite art supply and pick out your favorite blah, blah, blah. And then you're focusing all these things that you love. So you're starting to get more and more stimulated by it because you're, you know, generally things that we enjoy, we tend to be a bit more perky about. So you're really getting into it. And then if you're just told to make these small changes here and there, I think that's where the creative frenzy starts to bubble over. And so I think that's why I like to do those types of lessons in workshops, because it really does get you doing a lot without having to think a lot. That's the point, right? That's why I'm the teacher. That's why people pay, so that I do all the thinking for them. But it is, it's just something that I really, really like. And again, I get to learn more about everybody when they share it. This is also the conversations it sparks are always so great, especially, and that's why I love doing those ones live, because the conversations are just endless. I'm always talking about chocolate milk and my experiences with chocolate milk at Southwest Rocks. I'm sure everyone's sick of that story by now. But I had some more. You'll see some Nippies footage in my Australia vlog. I can't help it. My sister literally sends me photos of wherever she finds Nippies in, because it's so rare to find it these days. Anyway, we have to move on because I'm not saying that story one more time. This was A Bad Case of the Stripes. Now, this is not a children's book that I read. I was not familiar with it at all, but I came across it online when I was doing my research, and I thought there's no way I couldn't do a book about a girl who gets a case of the stripes. And this one translated so well. Just all the creepy doctors that are trying to figure out what's going on, all the stripes with all the patterns, all of this that gave me a carpal tunnel. Just fantastic. I loved that one. I think I did that with Tombow markers and pencil. And then here is a lot of the ephemera that just had to be fit onto the last couple of pages that were blank. When they print these books at Amazon, there's always like these random like end pages, so I just kind of filled them all up. One of the questions, quick questions, if you were to design a line of Tim Burton toys for children, what would they be? I thought these Burton blocks, I can't take credit for the idea. I actually went to the Academy Museum when I went to go and see the Ruby Slippers. There were Mary Blair building blocks. I kind of regret not buying them now, actually. And I just thought they were so cute. It was kind of like It's a Small World type designs, but on just building blocks. And I just thought, cute, love it. But Tim Burton version, black and white, all different kind of like conical shapes, cylindrical shapes, rectangular shapes, pyramid, all of the regular block designs, but with black and white, really graphic patterning on them. I just think it would be great. Such a cute little, maybe Halloween children's toy. So these were the Skellingtons. This is actually Oliver, myself, Steve, Bianca. and it's just like skulls on a shelf, kind of morbid if you think too hard about it. The only reason I can tell the difference between this and this, they're so subtle, like the differences, because we were learning the skulls, but you can see the crack in the head is a J and the crack in the head here is S. So the crackheads will let you know which ones they are. But the eye shape, this eye shape, I have this like downturned eye. Steve has these really big almond shaped eyes. Also, I have like a really thin, straight nose. So my heart shape was a little thinner and narrower, and Steve has more of a wide set nose. So here's a little bit more wide set. The cats you really couldn't tell apart, honestly. These had smaller eyes, so this was Bianca. And then the height, I was like a little bit taller than Steve. So even though they all look the same, I can tell they're different. Here is a version of them here. Oh, the Skellingtons. We said that you had to rename the family members with either a J or an S for Jack or Sally. So I'm James and this is Steve, so that already worked. But then we had to put Joliver and Sianka. So obviously we lose our minds halfway into the workshop. Actually, that was kind of at the end of the workshop. This is the Wicked Witch of the West on our creative frenzy. Another one of these quick questions to draw Jack Skellington stealing a different holiday. This is him stealing Valentine's Day. Some work. More work. I think this is the one that I did live. I switched out the doll. I put Miss Yuck. She was my favorite Cabbage Patch Kid. And then this was another test piece for my Margaret Keane Wednesday Addams. I think I like this one more than the pencil version, to be honest. I think it just looks more graphic. Creative Frenzy Benjamina from Muppets Treasure Island, or better known as Miss Piggy, my absolute fave diva. I think this turned out so well. Like, I actually would love to see this as a showgirl costume for something Halloween. Maybe I'll give it to Not Scary Farm and tell them to do something with it. Why would they do that? Anyway, this was... Oh, here's our passport stamp. We always have one of these. These are... If you actually look closely, all the lessons that we did are represented by something in here, which I think is just a fun little detail that I like to kind of do every time we do one of those passport stamps. This is a lesson I did not intend on making so intense. It wasn't even a lesson. It was just an activity. You know those mini monsters I showed you earlier? Well, I got everyone to do just a couple. Some people did 9. It's not a problem. I got everyone to do a couple and just said keep them really, really simple. Like, we just did them so quickly, and I just thought no one's really going to care too much about this, so it'll be fine. And then I said just put them in the comments after the lesson so that I could reference them, because I was going to put them together in a big mashup of a thing. One of the little notes that Tim Burton had in his Art of Tim Burton book was just a note next to everything that was like these little monsters all kind of formed together to create a larger monster. And I thought, oh, what a novel idea. Maybe I could do that and it'd be a way to kind of collaborate with everybody. And at first I didn't really know how I was going to do it, because I thought, well, like, could I get everyone else to draw it? Could I, start it and get people to add their own or see what that would be? And I just thought, you know what? I think I'm just going to do it as like my kind of, I'm not a gift, but like, I'm going to really try my best and put my best effort into it to make something very like unique and very, like, I've worked a lot on it. People can be proud of, like, it's all in there. Anyway, bit off way more than I could chew. Could not believe how many people put their little monsters in the comment section. I was getting a little nervous because I'd checked like an hour or two into it and there weren't that many. So I started pulling them into Photoshop. I was arranging them how I thought would look good. And then more and more and more and more came in. And I was like, all right, we're going to have to call it at some point. So I think I gave it a full day. And then by that point, everyone had submitted and I had so many little monsters to put together. So I put them all together on Photoshop first. I put this on Instagram. It's actually a really interesting image to look at. Everyone's little monsters are on there. And then I did one pass where I just outlined everything and did the drawing of it, the structure of it. And then I did another pass where I put all the little detail in there. And this took hours and hours and hours and hours. And I know it doesn't look like much, but these are our students. This is Virtual Voyage 8. These are the people of Virtual Voyage 8. This is what our community looked like throughout the course, throughout the workshop. And I love it because it represents everybody. I still remember who did a few of these. Honestly, there's so many, I can't really remember everyone's. But yeah, it was just great. It was so fun to put together. I felt like I was halfway through it and I was going to have a breakdown because I just couldn't believe how many people had done it. I seriously only thought 10 people would put a picture up, and I was like, it's going to be a cute little mashup of a monster. But it just turned out so epic. I'm so proud of it. So thank you again for putting in all your monsters. Really making me work hard for it. I appreciate that. And that is the last page. I put a little bit of an overall, like I'm happy with how it all worked out. Just a little bit of a finishing sentiment. I finished this October 26th, started it August 2nd. Not that it needs to be important, but sometimes I think I like to date those things just to know. And here it is, the Deco Journal turned Virtual Voyage 8 art journal. It's got everything in there. Could not be more proud of it. I think it turned out absolutely wonderful. My apologies because I don't think at this point in life I've flipped my Virtual Voyage 2 journal. So this is probably the first Burtonville journal you're really seeing. I'm going to get around to that at some point, maybe. And I hope you enjoyed this flip. I'll work on getting a music-only flip up just in case you want to see anything else. I'll share everything on my Instagram that I haven't shared already, but I think most of it's already up there. If you want to see more about what Virtual Voyage is, the workshops, to see if you want to join one in the future, go and check out the blog post. I'll link in the description box below. I think it only features the first 3 Virtual Voyages, maybe 4. I think it's 3. So it doesn't give you the full extent of what we've been up to lately, but it'll give you a really basic rundown of what it all is. But it's just a live workshop. It's themed for inspiration, open for... Nope. Yes. Themed for inspiration, open for imagination. What is the tagline? I've completely forgotten it now. Pretend I never said that. We're only 8 in and I can't remember the tagline. In any case, we choose themes and we just go crazy art journaling with them and get super creative for... I mean, the shortest one we've done, I think, was 4 days. I think that was just way too short. And then the longest one we've done is 4 weeks, which is very intense, and it's like the whole summer. And those can be really, really fun. But, I mean, there are a lot. In any case, they're all still available. So go check them out on Teachable. And I will see you again when I see you. Thanks so much for sitting through this humongous flip. This Deco Journal is available on Amazon, by the way. You can buy it, obviously not with all this stuff in it, but you can buy it just as a Deco Journal. So if you want to go have a look at that, please be my guest to enjoy that as well. Goodbye, everyone.